Thanks for the invitation, and thank you for the opportunity to tell you about what I do. And perhaps if I can just start off by explaining a little bit about my background. I'm a criminal lawyer of 28 years experience, well that's as much as I'm fessing up to at the moment. I both prosecuted and defended. I was in charge of the prosecution's office, the OPP, or the General Prosecution's area for quite a while. I've got defence experience. I ran an office for Rob Starry, who's an old mate of mine for years, and different offices around the place. So I have seen the law from both ends of the bar table, as it were. Since January of 2013, I've been working with the Salvation Army, running what's called the Urban Justice Centre, and I'll spend a bit more time explaining that to you shortly, but it's basically a legal service for the homeless and marginalised around the Melbourne CBD. It's what many years ago a couple of lawyers who, in the early days of the CLC, the Community Legal Centres, started off with what they referred to as a poverty law practice. Unfortunately for them, it was a poverty law practice, and so they had to shut it down and go and earn some money. What am I doing at an oral health conference? It's called Where the Mind Meets the Mouth, which often in my job doesn't happen with the clients that I deal with, which results in them having to come see me. So at least the title was quite attractive. But what am I doing here? I've been asked to tell you about Project 614 and the Urban Justice Centre for reasons that I hope will become apparent shortly. By way of perhaps understanding what I'm doing here, I did a bit of background reading on your website, and I read the Oral Health Advisory Panel's report on the Great Disconnect, which was very interesting, and I agreed basically with their conclusion that there was a disconnect between oral health and general health. But it did strike me that there was a bit of they'd missed a big picture there, because it seemed to me that the real disconnect was between oral health and the person as a whole, and all of the facts and circumstances and the situation of the person. So it was a bit of a relief to read the article next to it by, I'll just use the surnames Christian, Hall and Martin, which was described as, or titled rather, a paradigm shift in models of oral health, which I must talk to Martin a bit later about why paradigm's always used. It seems to me it's the only time I ever see that word, paradigm shift, that phrase, is in academic literature. You don't seem to use the word things changed. You've got to use the word paradigm. But I must say, I kept going back to page 4, where it talked about creative supportive environments. And if I can read the words correctly, because they are worth reading and repeating. Our societies are complex and interrelated. Health cannot be separated from other goals. The inextricable links between people and their environment constitutes the basis for a socio-ecological approach to health. I get that exactly. I get that exactly because that's a formulation that you could just remove the word health and put law in, and it's indeed the formulation that Project 614 and the Urban Justice Centre is all about. 614, it's a Salvation Army agency. It operates out of 69 Burke Street. I say to people that its landmarks are the spaghetti tree next door and Pellegrini's over the road, and most people get that. It's been there since, I think it definitely predates both those organisations, perhaps Pellegrini's not by much, but it's been there since 1894, the building has, and the Salvation Army have. Project 614 has only been there for about 11 years now, and Project 614, its whole raison d'etre is to focus on the homeless, people at risk of homelessness, people who are living on the margins in the CBD and in the suburbs immediately around. Now, the CBD's a bright light for those of us who have got lots of resources and those of us who hasn't. And so we get a lot of people come in to the CBD. We get a lot of people that sleep there. We get a lot of people that spend way too much time there, even if they have got a home to go elsewhere. And that can be from across all levels of society. 614, under the leadership of Brendan Nottle, has focused on trying to build a community in the CBD. He was doing that way before the City of Melbourne were promoting community involvement, community structures, community linkages for the people that lived in the city, perhaps at a time when there weren't that many people living in the city, but there's a lot more now. But Brendan's been doing it for a long time, and his focus is the whole idea of community. Now, I've got some descriptions of the various suite of services there, which I've brought along, and people are welcome to come grab a little bit later. I'll read them out. Now, some of them won't make sense to you, and I'll stop and mention some, but I want to give you an idea of the range of what's being done, because it'll lead me into explaining really what's at the heart of it and why it works. Now, we've got a thing called the Hammedover Cafe. That's a cafe which is like any other laneway cafe in Melbourne. It's a polished concrete floor, low ceiling, dull light, big TV in the side, newspapers, table service for people that come in, have their breakfast and have their lunch. Everything's free. We get a heap of people that come in who are homeless, living in grotty little rooming houses around the inner suburbs of Melbourne, where they're much safer really coming in talking to us than staying at home. And they come in, they sit together, they sit with friends, they get to meet people. They have table service. The table service is provided by corporate supporters who send in teams of volunteers to us. We have staff that are out the back with other volunteers preparing meals, plating them up, and then they're being served to people. Gone is the model where they were standing in a queue down Westwood Place with a paper plate or a tin plate in their hand, and the food was dished out of a window, and they all stood around. May as well had big neon signs at the end of Westwood Place saying, watch these people, they're homeless, they're dangerous, stay away from them, don't come down Westwood Place. That model's long gone. They come in, they sit there, they feel like real people, they are treated like real people, and it's their space, it's their territory. Becomes really important for me. For me, that's my waiting room. I can walk through the Hammedover Cafe and I can see people who never make their appointments with me, but I know they'll come in for breakfast or they'll come in for lunch, and I can grab them and I can say, Mick, where the hell were you yesterday? You're supposed to come and see me. I can sit down and have a coffee with him and we can talk. If it gets a bit personal and he's, or if I think it's better that we don't do it in the presence of a lot of other people, we can just dart upstairs to one of the meeting rooms and we can sit in there and deal with it. I can just walk through there and people who have never seen me before will grab hold of me because Mick or someone else told them they should talk to me because they've got a legal issue. I can walk through there and other staff who have spoken to somebody and they've started to unpack that person's issues. They can grab me and I can sit down, I can talk to the person. If somebody who was supposed to see me doesn't turn up, they can ring me from the cafe if I happen to be at court or presenting at a oral health conference or something. So the cafe is really important. That's the hub. After that, we've got things like the marketplace, which is an emergency relief centre that I would anticipate a lot of people here are familiar with. We've got the kitchen, which feed them and they shall come, and that's certainly our experience. We've got the mobile outreach van that goes out at nights, offers food, but the whole purpose of that is to interact with people. We've got the youth bus, which does a similar thing with the youth around the city. We've got the Vault, which is a youth program in situ there. We've got the youth teams that go out to the nightclub district at night to try and connect with, unfortunately, a lot of young women in the main rather than men who get too much to drink, get separated from their friends and are vulnerable, at risk. The police often use us. All the security at the various nightclubs will give us a call and say they're worried about somebody who's in strife and they're a bit concerned that they could be at risk. So our teams who are roaming around the streets will, armed with bottles of water and lollipops and thongs, will come along and chat with them, if necessary, take them to a safe place. Similar thing on the street teams, on the transit network. We've got teams there. We've got Night Watch, which goes overnight to the squats, down to Enterprise Park and the various places. At that level, that's what I'd call the interaction level. Those are all the programs where we get to interact with people. We get to meet them, they get to meet us, we get to build a relationship. The next level is the engagement level. Now, that's where I sit. That is, if they want to engage with us, if they want our assistance, if they want some services from us, then they choose to do so. We're not pushing them into it. They choose to do so. But they choose to do so because we've interacted with them, we've built the relationship, they've got to know us, we're on their turf in the sense that the cafe is where they're comfortable. That's why they can talk to me at ease, because it's their territory. It's not a waiting room in a building somewhere where you've been given a date and a time and you've got to turn up to, and you've got to leaf through the old magazines while you're waiting for the lawyer to come out and get you, or for the support staff member to come out and take you in, and you go and sit into the room and you run through your life story in 10 minutes and then you look at the papers. It doesn't work that way. The people that we're dealing with, it's a model which is not successful. Also at the engagement level, we have got a mental health clinic, which is a couple of psychologists there that do assessments and then try and connect and engage the people, or link the people with other services. We've got an alcohol and drug support worker. We've got a physiotherapy service. SOS, the Back in Motion people, have physiotherapists come in every Thursday morning and they run a physio service. And we've also got our own oral health service, which is run by, I wrote it down further on, Smile Solutions, which feeds into our accommodation, but I'll tell you more about that in a minute. The Urban Justice Centre, specifically myself, its purpose is to provide legal support to the people who use 614. Again, I've got a little bit more about that there, which I'm happy for you to grab hold of. Its purpose is to provide that legal support integrated with a wide range of supports available at 614. It's critically different to other models of legal delivery of legal support, because I'm embedded in with all of those other services. I'm shoulder to shoulder with them, sitting around with them, talking to them, dealing with people, unfolding people's issues, unpacking people's issues. They do it, I do it, we're all doing it, and we're cross-referencing, talking to each other all the time. What we're trying to do is support people as members of our community, not as clients defined by their service code in some ICT database somewhere. It's not just a matter of semantics, but it's driven by our values that we hold dear in there. The distinction speaks to the point that our service programs or service areas are not sectioned off from each other, operating in silos. We work as a community. We're trying to support our fellow community members. And for that reason, it's inadequate to describe the Urban Justice Centre as a legal service, because it's not. It's a whole lot more wider than that. Its remit is much wider than that. The legal issues that I deal with, all sorts. On the chart, if you're interested, have a look, goes from tenancy, social security, appeals tribunals. I get a surprising number of wills and estates inquiries. Not that people have got much to leave, but there's generally some well-off smart aleck brother somewhere who's trying to cut them out of their entitlement from the parent's estate or an uncle's estate. It amazes me how many of those come through. Criminal injuries compensation. I get a lot of criminal proceedings, probably, well, according to this, 35%. It's probably creeping up a bit. Infringements, children's court stuff, a whole lot of stuff. A lot of advocacy stuff with government departments and so on. Those legal issues for our people are usually huge. They're right in their face. They're yelling at them. And I've got to deflate them so as they can get past them, so as the support services can get past them, so as they can deal with what the real issues are. Now, I was going to give you a few examples, but someone's waving at me furiously here. I've clearly gone a bit longer than what I expected. The Magpie Nest, I will mention. Magpie Nest is our accommodation program. Very important program. Collingwood Football Club, who I don't support, but I have to because of this reason, they rent 30 properties for us, 2 and 3 bedrooms. We place people in there that were transitioned out of homelessness, and we support them there. That's where the Smile Solutions come in. Anyone that goes into there gets an assessment by Smile Solutions. They work out a treatment plan, and they pay for that plan. And whilst the person's with us, they stay as a client of Smile Solutions. That gets to be a really important component for our people, because just the difference that it can make for somebody, for them to get what, and you've seen reference to the sorts of issues that happen with people who are particularly using illicit substances, the effect it can have on their oral health. You guys would know better than me. Once it's repaired, the impact that it has is incredible. It can just, I'm not suggesting it's lightning on the road to Damascus. It's not some kind of single cathartic event that's going to change their entire life, but it is a significant event which I can leverage off, which the caseworkers can leverage off, which we can build off, and then if I have a bit of success in reducing the legal issue, the issue with the oral health issue is addressed. All of those things build on each other. They do not stand alone. It is not a case that you can cut any of those out of somebody's life, wrap them up and stick them on the shelf over there and be dealt with separately. They all interact. They are all wound up tightly together. How do we do it? We interact with our people. We build a relationship. We make ourselves available and then we engage with them. The punter, which is a technical legal expression referring to the client, the punter buys into their own future. That's critical. They don't buy anything from us. We don't sell them anything. It's none of that kind of stuff. They see value in their future, and we can add to that. We can create that for them, and they move forward. Why do they come back and see me? If I've sorted out an issue for them along the line, they don't come back and see me because they've got an appointment or they necessarily like me. They come back, because most times you see a lawyer and he's giving you bad news or there's something bad happen. They come back because they can see an outcome and they can see that they're moving forward and they can see that something good's going to happen. They can see that when the accommodation people unpack an issue, that maybe there's the AOD issue comes out, maybe there's the legal issue comes out, they can see that in that community at 614, those issues can be picked up and they can be addressed. What's that all mean for you guys? I suspect what it means is that you've got to think a little bit more widely about how you deliver your service. Dentistry, I suspect you're probably not as badly regarded as lawyers, but you're probably not that high on the, gee whiz, I'm looking forward to going to the dentist list. But people don't mind coming to see me, I can promise you that, in the context of where I am part of that service is part of an integration of a whole lot of services that they can see there is value for, and as I said before, allows them to buy into their future. And here ends the sermon.